Keep an eye for folks jumping on. All right, I'm getting notifications, so that's good. We got one person jumping on. Is she in the room? 3. All right. Hey guys, good evening. If you wouldn't mind clicking the share button and letting me know that we've got good audio. We're going to let some folks jump in here because we're going to do some Q&A with Senator Andrew Jones. Dropped a little press conference this afternoon and throwing out not one but 2 new pieces of legislation. So we'll definitely dive in and talk about that. So guys, if you've got questions, go ahead and start getting those rolling in. And we'll get to those. We're going to give it just a few minutes. If you would hit that share button and let folks know, tag a friend, and let folks know that we're up and running. Man, I am warm. I think I might have to pull this thing off. So busy day today?
Busy day. Yep.
Phone calls I get. We were just watching. We got some news stations talking about what's going on. So I'm excited to see folks talking about Gadsden in whatever light, because the more folks talk about it, the better. Because there's a lot of serious conversations that we need to have in this community.
That's right.
Well, guys, while a few more of you are jumping in, I will say I'm sorry I haven't been around too much. Some folks have accused me of disappearing off to frolicking in Hawaii, but I was out there doing a little Navy Reserve time, and it was nice, but good to be home for sure. So COVID restrictions making travel. I don't know if you've flown at all during the current COVID stuff, but I mean it wasn't awful, but certainly it was just weird, just different.
Right.
And I'll also put out, guys, if the press conference we streamed live, so if you haven't gotten a chance to watch that, I don't want to necessarily rehash everything. We'll do a synopsis, but definitely get over there and watch that discussion and some of the other leaders that were there and their perspectives on the bills that are being proposed. All right. Sound is good. So I guess I'll start with, the last time we talked, you were getting ready to head down to Montgomery.
Mm-hmm.
How's things going down there, or down there?
They've been going well. We were on for 2 weeks, and then we took a week break to kind of assess COVID protocols and the like. But had a very busy 2 weeks. Had a lot of important things done. Liability protection for businesses. We want businesses that, if they're trying their best to follow the guidelines, that somebody can't sue them if they catch COVID, at your church or at your business or whatever. So economic incentive packages for business that had lapsed to recruit new industry in, and just other key things that need to be done. We had a pretty blockbuster couple of weeks.
Okay.
A lot of things done, a lot of work, and be going back down there later this evening, starting session tomorrow.
All right. So don't ask too many questions tonight because we got to get him on the road. But no, we do appreciate you coming in. I say that in jest. I know that you're here to serve, and we very much appreciate that. And whatever questions, we'll answer those as long as we've got them. So anybody talking about the rendering plant down in Montgomery?
Oh yeah, it's a big topic of discussion, and it's made some statewide news a little bit. I had a few radio interviews, and it's popped up here and there. A lot of colleagues are asking questions. Most people were kind of like we were in November. Nobody knows what a rendering plan is, so you have to kind of walk them through and explain everything from the start all the way up to where it is. But once you explain it to people, they understand.
Yeah.
And once you explain, why would somebody in their right mind put this close to a city, they get it. I
Right.
mean, they get it. And we've had some opposition, from a few entities down there. But once I've explained to my colleagues the importance of this, they get it in the end.
Okay. Well, so I guess that will lead us into. We'll start with another piece of legislation that you're putting forth, um, and why don't you tell me a little bit about that as far as the rendering plant,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of the 1 minute spiel on what that's all about.
Okay. Well, this is a local constitutional amendment.
Okay.
We originally didn't want to go that route because it just takes longer.
Okay.
That's the reason why we did the other local bill that I threw out. We can, have penalties for those rendering companies located within 3 miles of city limits. It was quick, and we were able to get that turned around, and we wanted to get that out and discourage um, pilgrims from coming and Gadsden from bringing them here. We've seen that they've been stubborn. They've dug in their heels. I hope not, but we could be in for a longer fight. So at that point, we decided to go ahead and bring forward a constitutional amendment. It will take longer. It'll take 15 months because it is a vote of the people.
Right.
But the advantage of the CA, there are several of them. One is that it allows us to do even more. We can do a bigger radius than 3 miles.
Okay.
We can do 10 miles.
Okay.
With 11 cities here in the county, 10-mile radius around each one. There are very few places left, if any. I doubt there are any left where they could locate. Constitutional amendment also is a vote of the people, so it goes straight from the legislature to the public.
Okay.
The governor does not sign or veto a CA. And another reason for this bill was this amendment was that we've been hearing rumors. There may be a secondary location, or they may try to move it from where they were talking to somewhere else. So I really wanted to expand the radius of protection. CA allows us to do that. It does take longer, but I think everybody knows the public is going to approve the amendment. I mean, it's going to pass overwhelmingly. So even though it's 15 months down the road, uh, it's retroactive to January 1st of this year.
Yeah.
So they would have had to begin operations before January 1. So the bill basically stops them dead in their tracks.
Okay, so that basically puts them in the position that with the bill out there, they got to roll the dice. If all the other stuff that has to happen, the transfer of the land and all of the necessary approvals from the FAA and ADEM and all that stuff, if that does happen, it puts it on pilgrims. They're going to have to roll the dice that if we build it and then this law passes, then they can't operate.
That's right. And
okay.
So in some ways, it may be better that it's longer down the road because everything is held up in limbo. So we've got both now. Why?
Right.
We've got two tools at our disposal.
And that's and I know we haven't talked a whole lot. I don't think on publicly in the advanced law side of things and on the opposition group, but obviously more and more people there is discussion that this is clearly a longer term. Back in November, when nobody knew what a rendering plant was, within a few weeks, we were like, well, no, we don't want that. And
right.
We thought, surely, at that point, 3,000-4,000 people, okay, somebody's going to listen. And then that clearly has not transpired. And I don't know, in a good way, it's brought a lot of other issues to the attention of folks in Etowah County. So,
right.
All right. So then the people so that'll be May of next year would be when that would come through. And what's got to happen to get it onto the ballots here?
Okay, to get it on the ballot, we just need the 4 members of the delegation, Representative Lipscomb, Representative Norgren, Representative Isbell, and myself to sign the bill, and it passes.
Okay.
That's the way every other local bill works. whether there's any interference, like there has been on the last bill, who knows? This is a cleaner bill in terms of, there are not penalties, per se. It's just a simple zoning bill.
Gotcha.
So, I would think it'd be less likely that there would be opposition. Either way, we're going to get it passed. We're going to get it out of the Senate to get it down to the House.
Well, if there's anything I've learned in the last few months, there's nothing simple when it comes to politics. So, with that, all right. So David Stanley said if Senator Jones will talk about how we can get the bill passed without Ivy's support or veto, how it goes back to Senate and House. So I guess let's take that question into both bills that are out there. Mm-hmm. Is there any way to get it pushed through without the first one, without Governor Ivey vetoing it, or is there anything that we can do as a community to push that and encourage that one through?
Well, let me just say this. I don't know that the governor would veto the bill. I've been told that the letter that was leaked or somehow came out from the governor's office was never meant as an endorsement of a rendering plan. Okay. It was meant, she has two cabinet officials, one the head of the Commerce Department who is recruiting this industry, and the other being the head of the National Guard.
Right.
And what I understand was really going on was that she didn't want to enter cabinet squabble. Gotcha. Going on, and so she was trying to rein that in. So I don't at all think that she's likely to veto the bill. I just think we have to think through all possible steps. Gotcha. We need to prepare for all possible contingencies, and this gives us different methods of getting it done, and it gives us different benefits for getting it done. So just it's another tool in our tool belt.
When you bring up the National Guard, that letter that was read at City Council, and I'll tell you, I'm certainly no expert, and I haven't been, I haven't ever done a tour in D.C., but I have been involved in pretty high level issues like that from the military standpoint, where you can particularly, one of the issues that I got into was a DOD versus DOE, Department of Defense and Department of Energy, conflict of interest, right? And it's not really too shocking to see something like that where when it gets to the folks at the highest levels, especially when you're talking about generals and all that kind of stuff, there's some politics involved there, and you gotta, they're not going to come out. The military's job is not to take sides on something like this. You can talk about, well, if it goes through, these may be the implications of what's going to happen. So I just want to take that opportunity. This is just Michael Wildman's opinion from my experiences in the military. I'm not super shocked that a letter would come out saying, well, we're not going to endorse it, and we're not going to, that's really not the role. Certainly great knowledgeable folks that have talked about what they do out there and the implications. That letter doesn't say they would stop jumping there. That letter doesn't say that down the road, when a bunch of soldiers don't want to go do duty there and they can't keep in, people, that they wouldn't have to pack up and leave eventually. That's just the way, this messy stuff works. So I don't want anybody getting too mad at the National Guard for coming out and, saying, all right. So then is there anything we can do? What do we need to do as citizens to help both pieces of legislation keep moving forward and gaining traction?
Well, I think many of you have had conversations with our local delegation. They've all given commitments on the first bill. We're still waiting those commitments. Representative Lipscomb is going to support both bills. I think we know that. We want to make sure we get commitments from Representative Norgan and Isbell on this the second bill as well. So folks can follow up with them and contact them as is your right as a constituent to contact your local representatives. And I think the other thing is just keep your ear to the ground. A lot of we've been hearing a lot of rumors and things that have come out, and some of it kind of makes sense and some of it doesn't. So it's kind of helped us piece together, speaking about this proposed possible second shadow site that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of come to light from different conversations people have been having around the county, and that's made me realize we need to address this and kind of nip it in the bud.
Gotcha. All right. All right. I see. Let's see. Donnie Minton, he's got two questions that are both related. He said, how can 10% of the population spark? I think you mean speak for the whole. And then Donnie says, where do you draw the line in determining for yourselves what's best for Gadsden? So I think I'm taking that as kind of a confrontational question in the opposition group, which I think it's a very valid question that we need to have. And I'll say from Advanced Etowah, our intention is not to speak for the county. That's why we have a democratic system and elected officials, and we try to choose those elected officials. I think a lot of this process is brought to light to a lot of people on however you think the community should go, that we've got some broken processes
That's right.
that are not working. So I don't know, thoughts on that?
I would say to Donnie, nobody's claiming we speak for Etowah County, but show me somebody other than a Gadsden elected official or somebody who's been paid to speak in favor of this. Show me somebody that's in favor. And then if you can show me somebody, show me 9,000 somebodies who speak in favor of this. They're just not out there. You're going to be hard pressed to find even one. There are a lot of people that don't really understand, and they just, they can see it from the surface of running an industry off. But once people are educated on the details, they get it. So, I would say to him, the overwhelming, if this goes on the ballot as a CA, it's going to pass overwhelmingly. The only people who can be voting for it are a few city council people in Gadsden, and the Pilgrim's Pride people can't vote, thankfully.
Right.
So, it's going to be a home run at the ballot box, I feel like.
And so Donnie, it is part of, particularly that CA, that's literally going to throw it into us as citizens around here to vote. And if you don't want it, vote it down. But yeah, I would encourage you. I'm going to guess, I don't know how much research you've done into all this. And to the comment of 10% of the population, go look at the numbers on how many people actually vote in Etowah County. We've got well over the number of people that voted in the last mayoral election represented in this group. So, while we talk about 104,000 or 103,000 people, which I think it's been a shrinking number, if I'm not wrong, it certainly has not gone up much in years. But 104,000 people don't actually get out, get involved, and get vote. Which I'll also throw out, and I'm in the same boat. I haven't been as involved as I should have been, paying enough attention as one of the 104,000, and that's part of how we got to where we are. That's just my opinion. But we're here to have those discussions, and like I said at the beginning, the more we talk about this, the more people are talking about it anyway, the better off it's going to be. And let's not just use the one-liners that everybody hears. We need jobs, we need jobs, we need jobs. I think we have put that discussion to bed. There's thousands of jobs available. We need better. We need quality. Again, that's just an ongoing conversation.
That's right.
So let me look through rendering plant questions, and then we'll get to the other piece of legislation that you put out there. All right. I think we covered the four stating they will sign the legislation bill. I think you covered that just a second ago. Charles Hawkins says, Senator, do you think the land deal had already been made with the airport authority as $1 million plus for 80 acres of land has been made known?
I don't know whether anything was promised, but nothing has been officially finalized as far as we can tell. I do think something has been promised to someone. Otherwise, they wouldn't be pushing so hard to take something so unwantable. Um, Only time will tell as to when we figure that out or what that is.
Well, Donnie, good comment. Back, the concern is the industry is needed to improve an aged infrastructure. Without it, the bill is passed to the consumer. We have to improve our infrastructure in order to attract larger industries. I think that is spot on. In my opinion, I just sell boats for a living, but yeah, I mean, I get that. I think that's definitely a good conversation that has to be had as part of, hey, as a community, we need to have that discussion and make a plan. And we were talking about that before we got live. You know, we've got to have a plan as a community, some way that we're going, so that we can be intentional about how we build that infrastructure. That
Mm-hmm.
maybe that's the military strategy planner in me. You know, maybe it makes it more difficult, but I don't know. Thoughts on the need to build infrastructure and how to leverage new industry and
We've got to have infrastructure. We've got to have the workforce. There are a lot of needs that we have to recruit industry, and we're looking at those. I think part of it, frankly, is going to take more cooperation between our cities here. For the smallest county landmass, size in Alabama, we have 11 municipalities, and we've got to get better cooperation going between all of them. And it starts with Gadsden, I feel like, because they're the biggest city. Everyone has looked to them. Frankly, they have designed the mechanisms of government, and the county organizations kind of have been working in their favor. So it's going to take rethinking of how we do business in Etowah County. It's going to take investments in infrastructure and workforce training. Gadsden State's leading the way in that. There are a lot of things positive out there, but it's going to take cooperation and unified mindset, and that's probably a good transition to the
yeah.
second piece of
Yeah,
legislation.
yep. So let me. I think I got one more question about the bills, the rendering plant bills. Can we get the bill passed by going back to Senate and House faster than the amendment? Will the amendments lingering push Ivy to sign the bill, or at least with the amendment, do we think Pilgrims will leave, or at least withdraw from the plan?
I think one avenue's fast, the other's slow. I think we go for both of them. I think certainly having the other helps. They both kind of support each other in a different sort of way, and I think the timeline. You could argue that shorter is better, but you also argue that the longer timeline drags things out and provides uncertainty for anybody who would want to locate here. So coupled together, I think it's a one-two punch, and um, I'm confident that they're both going to help.
All right. Well, I see a few more questions rolling in. We're going to jump over to the other piece of legislation, which just kind of, and we can get into this in terms of why you're putting forth both today that you did. But I think the simple answer, as I understand it, is it kind of comes down to timing, and getting it through in such a way that we can get all this stuff voted. Not necessarily that the two are connected to the rendering plant, um, but certainly uh, it has everything to do with where we go as the future of a community. So let us know what's the other piece of legislation you're putting out
Okay.
there?
Well, and it's separate, but it's connected. The rendering plant fight has brought to light a lot of challenges, a lot of concerns, a lot of issues, and one of those has been how the city of Gadsden. We've all heard the videos of the council meetings. They could care less what people in Etowah County, Rainbow City, Attala, or anywhere other municipality what they think. They keep talking about we're going to do what's good for Gadsden. None of you people can vote in Gadsden. I mean, we've all heard those comments. Matter of fact is we all eat, we all many of us work, we all shop in Gadsden, uh, and for those that work, they're paying 2% occupational tax to the city of Gadsden, and I don't care how you slice it, it comes down to taxation without representation anyway. But even more so, because if you drive to Gadsden and work,
Right.
you pay that tax. You can't vote for them. You're working there, and it's a tax on employment.
Right.
That in itself is taxation without representation. But when you get into the whole, we don't care what you think. This is about Gadsden. You don't, this doesn't affect you. You people leave us alone. You violent protesters, and all this kind of stuff. That they're just spurning the will of the people in Etowah County. And correct me if I'm wrong, Gadsden is in Etowah County,
Right.
and it all has added up to the same thing. And I've had a loathing for this tax to start with because Michael, there are only 30 places in the state that have it. There are six cities that have 2%, which is double the rate most of them have, which is 1%. 6 cities with a 2% rate. 5 of them are here in Etowah County, and we wonder why can't we get industry here? Why do our workers leave Etowah County and go other places? I think it all adds up that this is a driving factor that's been holding us behind economically. So the rendering plant has added the fuel to the flames of this discussion.
Right.
But as we look to move from the past to the future, I think this is part of the discussion and why brought it forward today. It's another thing that will be voted on by the people.
Right.
The people want it, then they'll have it. I would say this one would pass overwhelmingly as well. Who doesn't want a 2% pay raise?
Well, that is true, and I hope out of this. There's clearly going to be. I think there's going to be more discussion on both sides. Quite honestly, than the rendering plant is kind of once people really get educated on it. It's no, I don't want that. The taxation. It makes a lot of sense, and I've heard a lot of discussion for a number of years of people's frustration with that. But I am looking forward to the discussion that we will have as a community. And again, any discussion that we're talking about this stuff is good. I think most folks would certainly love to have a 2%. But then that gets into, well, you are taking funds away from how the municipalities run. And so they've got to make plans to do all that kind of stuff. How do they adjust their budgets? Which I think gets back to the cooperation and how are we all gonna work together? Now you're not rolling this out. What's the timeline that this bill is?
So this one will be assuming we get the delegation members to sign off and get it out, and I have confidence that we will. This would be voted on in November of 2022.
Okay.
The next general election, and then it would start at the start of the fiscal year, which is October 1 of 23. So people would have time to kind of get preparations in order, and this would be a 20-year drawdown.
Okay.
So it'd go from 2% to 1.9, 1.8, 1.7 until it's completely phased out. I've had some questions, why 20 years? Why not do it quicker? Well, we want to be sensitive to the fact that many cities, particularly Gadsden, have, for lack of a better word, become addicted to this money. Gadsden is the most dependent city in the state on the occupational tax, even more dependent than Birmingham. And we know how many people drive to work in Birmingham. This is a huge chunk of Gadsden's budget. 2014 numbers, the last we had from a Parkin study that say it was 22% of Gadsden's budget.
Okay.
So you want to draw it down in a thoughtful way where they can adjust over time. And certainly, if other cities, South Side, Dana Snyder has been a leader on this issue. She was there. Her council is in support of this legislation. I'd say to places like that, if y'all want to go and do it even quicker, there's nothing in the bill that prohibits you from drawing it down faster than 20 years. That's up to the councils, but we want to say, 20 years is the minimum. In 20 years, our long-term goal is we're all going to be off of this. Won't be any occupational taxes in Etowah County, and we're open for business.
All right. Yeah, I don't think anybody will be upset. I mean, to see some of these municipalities maybe push that out a little bit quicker, and move on. Guys, I want to interrupt real quick. I'm seeing some chatting back and forth. Guys, I don't. We're not bickering in the thread. So if folks have challenging questions to ask, so far I have not seen anything tonight that is ugly or out of place. This is a discussion that has to be had. So I would appreciate it if everybody would behave. I hate to say that, but I guess maybe I've been away from Facebook Live for too long, and so it jumps out at me a little bit more tonight. Let's see what kind of questions we got. So, guys, whatever questions you've got on the occupational tax or the rendering plant, and I'm just going to fire through some of these. I saw one. Can ADM grant air permits to someone that doesn't own the land? I don't know if you're the best qualified person. Unfortunately, Christy's not here.
I would imagine so, because they don't own the land as of yet, and they've been going through the permit process. I think they're just kind of like a pre-approval, so to speak.
Um, all right. We're getting a lot of discussion back and forth in here, so give me a second. All right. Here's an easy one. Okay. Just joining. What is the topic today? Thank you both for all you do. So we're talking with Senator Andrew Jones about two bills that he's put forth. One that will change a constitutional amendment to basically build a 10-mile bubble around Etowah County, saying no rendering plants.
The cities in Etowah County.
Cities in Etowah County. Cities in Etowah County. And then another one to do away with that marvelous occupational tax that we all love paying around here. So that's the topic of discussion. I would encourage you, if you got a question, throw it in there. But you can always go back and rewatch. And I'd also tell you, go back to the press conference. There was some good information put out there, and some other thoughts that were expressed from different leaders. I thought the former police chief's and I forget his name,
John
Crane. His point of just from the practicality, which I kind of expected him to get up and talk about the budget side, because obviously drawing down or changing the budget of Gadsden would affect the PD, but he went the other direction and talked about, well, recruiting police officers. You know, if you're in law enforcement around here, you know, you're taking 2% of my pay just for the privilege of being, you know, part of the police department.
Right.
I thought that was not what I was expecting.
Right.
But very good point. What else have we got, guys?
We had a number of good speakers. You know, former Commissioner Carolyn Parker. We had a business owner, Mr. Weaver from Stamped Products Incorporated, who has a large number of employees here in the county. That all spoke, and I thought we had a stellar group representing business and from different angles, and law enforcement.
All right. Well, Amy, I'm gonna probably not read all of that because that's a lot. Let me dive through. Greg Canfield, Secretary of Commerce. Is he personally aware why we don't want the rendering plant? Um, to summarize, basically, I think her question is about this whole the rhetoric about, well, if we turn this down, we won't get anything more from Montgomery. Um, is that, I mean, is that true from your understanding of how things work in Montgomery? And then is Greg Canfield the Secretary of Commerce?
He's just the Secretary of Commerce for the state of Alabama.
Okay.
He is aware of a. I've I've talked with him early on. He was a bit coy in his response, and I think by now we've concluded that his department is responsible for helping bring
Okay.
this unwanted facility here to Etowah County. Long story short, no, this is not going to hurt us in terms of our recruiting. Everyone understands that no one wants this. They've been trying to find a home for this thing. We know from at least 2015 they were making overtures to Gadsden about trying to find a home for this. So, I mean, people get it. They know nobody wants it in their backyard. And we've just put up more of a fight than I think they've anticipated. And I think the city of Gadsden was more desperate than your average suitor to get water sales and wastewater treatment sales.
Right.
And so they bid and tried to find a home for it. So, look, we need to get past this. We need to move on to other things. We need to do things to make our county more attractive, and then recruit those types of industries that we want, and we'll get them. We're just as competitive with anybody else. I mean, we've got great things going here. I've talked last time about the mega site. It's on rail. It's on Interstate 59. It's 1,100 acres. I mean, it's we're doing work out there now through a $2.7 million grant to get it pad ready. I mean, we have the potential to land things here, and we're just as competitive as anybody. But it's going to take more cooperation.
Yeah.
On a county level.
I can't help but think. I mean, our proximity to Huntsville and the explosion in growth in the Huntsville area.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just don't see how that's not something that we can build onto and take advantage of. And just from the guys I know that are friends of mine that work in the Department of Defense, the whole military industrial complex, the aerospace industry. There's a lot of cool stuff going on up there, and I know sprinkled throughout Northeast Alabama, there's all sorts of businesses that help support a lot of stuff that's going on up there. So that's just from my uneducated experience and understanding that, and lots of opportunity. And I would also put the simple answer that if the best we can do is getting a rendering plant from Montgomery.
Right.
You can keep it. We'll figure out something else. And then the question: do you know what the occupational tax is in Rainbow City?
2%.
2%.
There's 2% in the 5 cities that have it, or Rainbow City Southside, Attala, Glencoe, and Gadsden. They all have a 2% rate. Michael, while you're looking for other questions, I got a question, or a comment rather, from someone that said, please focus on the first bill. Don't detract from the first bill. And I just wanted to clarify. Look, we're doing nothing but adding to, and believe it or not, you may think differently with some legislators, but we are capable of handling more than one thing at a time. Matter of fact, I probably have 20 some odd bills when everything's said and done this session that I'm trying to move right now on different things locally and statewide. So there's no need to worry about one detracting from the other, or the occupational tax detracting from the rendering fight. I'm there to work in Montgomery, and we're going to move all this stuff forward, and we're going to be running on all cylinders, so to speak.
All right. Well, I hope that's I hope that's true. And yeah, there's all sorts of legislation going on. So, I'm not seeing. I'm seeing more comments than anything. Guys, let me know if I'm missing. If you so Reba Stanley, can we get something passed before they build? Um,
Yes, but theoretically, yes, but it doesn't matter because the legislation, both pieces are retroactive to January 1st. So they would have to be building, they would have had to been building by January 1
mhm.
in order to be exempted from this, and they have not. So we're good.
And don't forget, guys, there's other, and I know Christy went through a lot of stuff on the Kapow Media, sat down with those guys and went through the legal stuff. I actually pretty good synopsis of the legal actions she's taking. So remember, this is one piece of the fight, a very very critical piece, and in my from how I understand all this stuff going down, it's something that can really make an impact on preventing this in the future. What Christie is working on from the legal side is fighting this battle right here, right now, with Pilgrim's Pride and the city. Does that seem like a fair way to put it?
That's right. That's right. We're gonna bring any and everything, and hopefully they're going to get the message and back out, and the council is going to change course. But if it has to be death by a thousand cuts, then we can do that too. So we're going to keep at it.
David Sandley, do the amendments have to be advertised?
No, that is another distinct advantage of a constitutional amendment is that it does not have to be advertised because it will be on the ballot for the public to vote for.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't mention that for timing's sake at the press conference today, but that's a good pickup. No advertising needed on this one.
Hey, these folks are paying attention.
They are.
So, like you said at the conference today, we've got some legal and political experts now,
That's right.
or at least they've stayed in the Holiday Inn in the last few months. Did Mayor Taylor and his council state where they stand today? I'm assuming you mean on the occupational tax.
We had a very good meeting with Mayor Taylor. Also, we had Mayor Snyder and Mayor Hare and some other leaders, and we all met. I think Mayor Taylor is going to have some discussions with his council as to what their position is. I've spoken with several of them by phone today. I know that several of them have expressed their opinion that this is the right thing to do, although it will be a hard thing to do.
Right.
So they're going to have discussions about that, as will those in Glencoe, Tala, and Gaston as well. But I was pleased that the city of Southside came out swinging. We had unanimous support from them and their mayor, and I think it's a sign that that they're going to be a leader and helping make this happen and turn the page.
Well, and we'll see. I'm sure if there's anything I've learned about Mayor Taylor, he'll come out and make his opinions known when he feels it appropriate to do so. So I'm sure he'll get on and answer lots of questions. And I mean, this is not going to be a short process.
Right.
So,
and in the end, no matter what your opinion, I mean, it's kind of hard to argue with let the people vote. I think, I mean, the people have the right to vote. It's not anything I'm shoving down anyone's throat.
right.
You get to go to the polls, and I would venture to guess that this would pass in the high 80s, if not, it'd be a minimum in the 80th percentile.
That's if you get out and vote now. Just remember that next year, there's going to be a lot of stuff you're going to have to pay attention to. So
that's right.
It's easy to get folks out for national elections, but a lot of these little local things, I'm guilty of it myself. So, well, I think we got. I think that's most of it, guys. I apologize if I missed anything. I want to say I'm seeing the conversation with Donnie Minton. Hey, man, I appreciate you joining us tonight, sharing your thoughts. Um, if you really want to dive into the numbers, and I won't get into too much of it, but talking about if you're really for and you really believe this rendering plan is a good thing for our community, I'd love to have that conversation with you. We can jump on the phone. If you want to come on alive, I probably wouldn't want to because people will get super upset. But there's nothing wrong with having a different opinion. I just would encourage you to go through all of the information that's been put out there. And the one thing I'll say from my perspective, from what I've seen you talking about with the infrastructure and the revenue from the water and all that kind of stuff, and the thing that I have to, every time I have this conversation, I have to beat the drum no matter what happens with the rendering plant. Like whether it doesn't smell, whether it doesn't environmentally impact, whether, everything else works well, it doesn't belong in an airport. And it completely wastes the value and the potential of the land on that airport. So, and we have tried to find what is a good argument to put that piece of infrastructure on an airport. And I mean, there's so many bad reasons to do that. So Donnie, love to keep chatting with you. And don't get too discouraged. This is the opposition group, so there are a lot of very passionate people about it. But appreciate you having good conversation, and please let's keep it civil because that's the only way we move forward as a community. Um, well, do you have any other final thoughts before you go hit the road to get down to Montgomery and make all this happen?
Well, I'll just say, I think it was a very exciting day for Etowah County because, we're trying to deal with old school politics, the politics of the past, and yet we're looking to the future. And I think the rendering plant has done better than anything else to highlight the disparities between how we have done business and how we need to do business. And so, I think it all starts with where we are, killing this rendering plant, getting our county unified, getting a coherent long-term plan, fostering more cooperation between these municipalities. And I think, part of that 20-year long-term plan or whatever number you want to throw out needs to be phasing out these occupational taxes, making our county more attractive to business, doing the things that are necessary, the hard work to make ourselves attractive to industry. We don't have to go after the crumbs, so to speak, or we can go after the cream of the crop.
Right.
And that's kind of, in a nutshell, how these two issues come together. Move on from the past, look toward the future, have a plan, get there, get those industries and jobs. And in that vein, it was a very exciting day. And I hope maybe we look back and say, we finally turned a page and moved on the 22nd of February 2021 to some degree. So, and I just appreciate the public. Michael, none of this would have been possible. We would not be here without these loyal members of the opposition who've raised these issues, who've had discussions, who've talked about what kind of industries we want, who've talked about how we need to go about marketing ourselves as a county and making ourselves more attractive to business. And so we have a lot to be grateful for the leaders of the opposition, the 9,000 almost strong members of the opposition for helping have the conversations to get us to where we are today. So grateful for all these fine folks who spent a lot of time researching, talking, dialoguing, contacting their representatives. That's what it's all about.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you again for joining us. Thank you for fighting the good fight and representing the folks here in Etowah County. Best of luck down in Montgomery. and hopefully y'all's COVID protocols will keep the train on the track, so to speak, and move all this along. Thank you guys so much. As the center said, thanks for the work you're doing and hanging in there. Um, we're taking a look, doing some strategy. Like I said earlier, clearly there's some long term fight here, and not just the rendering plant, but there's a lot more that can be done in Etowah County, and I for one want to be a part of whatever I can do to help facilitate the discussion, and to help help with whatever I can. And I know it's been awesome, like you said, to see everybody has been throwing in. We've got some researchers. I mean, we have got some researchers, and they're doing their part. And guys, we've got some donations that have been coming in to Advance Etowah, and we appreciate those. And we'll be turning around and putting those funds to good use. And we're having discussions on where we go from here for sure. So more lives to come, or some more discussions. I think we'll definitely have some more discussions with folks around here. We can talk some about the occupational tax, hear from maybe some business leaders and some other folks. But thank y'all so much for tuning in. Have a great Monday night. Go find on Kapow. Go find Christy's interview. She did a great job, especially if you're kind of new to the discussion. She kind of went from beginning to where we are now and brought up a lot of good points. I thought she did a great job, and gave a good synopsis. So go watch that. Go watch the press conference, and make sure you share it up. And most importantly, get out there, talk to your neighbors, talk to your coworkers, let them know what's going on here in Etowah County.